This used to be called the Devil's Knucklebones on account of the big rocks and how they look. Then they changed the name to just the Knucklebone. Just having a bit of a look around just to see what's coming back. Everything's starting to come back now. Well, 8 months after the drought and then suppose 7 months after the fire.
That's where it started from. Warren and sort of kicked back.
It's been, what, 8 months now? 7, 8 months? And they're actually starting to come back. Not all of them, but a lot of them's actually starting to have regrowth on them.
Painting that we got on here, we got an echidna, kukra in Bambai language. As of last year, we had a fire come on our property that started from the back area and sort of come up the way over the top. Previously, we had a cultural burning workshop that we done here on the yard site. So when the fire come over, it was only trickling down. It wasn't raging as it was on the other property because it was so dry. And at that time, we wasn't getting any water, a lot of heat waves. You know, most of these old gums just starting to split because there was just no water and moisture that was getting around. So obviously it's held up pretty well. A second fire come through, which was more hotter and more intense fire. So was a bit more worried about it then, but as you can see, you know, nothing's damaged it, held up pretty well.
When we done our cool burning, we only had 3 lots of Lacrovilla, and then after we had a burn, it all came back like a carpet. But up here, we used to have a lot up here, and it got burnt. But fortunately, we got a couple of plants coming through, and just hope it keeps going strong. Very happy because I thought we lost them. But ours coming out of the ashes.
Cultural burning is not a new idea. Aboriginal people have been burning their land for 65,000 years. But unfortunately, when Australia was colonised, a lot of those burning practices were forbidden and Aboriginal people moved off their country. They were no longer able to practice cultural burning. However, in recent decades, in Northern Australia, they're world leaders in fire management. They're showing the world how to undertake savanna burning, and they've proven a lot of economic, ecological and social and cultural benefits associated with that. And working with these communities in Southern Australia, they would also really like to have that opportunity to reintroduce cultural burning, which they have successfully done over the last few years. And I've been lucky enough to follow the Banbai Rangers' journey as they've reintroduced cultural burning onto their land. All of this area has been burnt out by bushfire. With the bushfire crisis, we experienced unprecedented bushfires that damaged millions of hectares of land, killed over 1 billion wildlife, took out livestock, and at least 33 people passed away, many homes burnt.
And there wasn't that much up here. You know what I mean? But now...
It's really given an opportunity to have a lot more voices heard about what cultural burning is and what it could be. There are a lot of Indigenous voices now speaking up in the scientific literature, talking about cultural burning and the potential benefits that it could have for the land. So with the Banbai, we've co-authored papers, we've co-created a fire and seasons calendar that helps to share that Indigenous knowledge of fire management. Burnby Rangers have implemented a few burns since 2009. I started my PhD in 2014 and we started to monitor the outcomes of the burns together. In 2019, when these wildfires came through, they came through really fast. They were very severe, intense fires. But because the Burnby mob had done that preparation around their rock art site, they managed to protect it through their cultural burning.
Today we're just restocking the pig traps. We've got a few ferals getting around with like deer, pig. We're also in partnership with National Parks. They supplied us with the cracked corn. We've actually got about 11 traps all over.
One top bottom
So what we're putting up here is an Anaconus box for little marsupials that's getting around that don't have much habitat left after the wildfire comes through. So we're putting a few of these up for them.
Alright, so what we're doing here, we're going to put up a few possum boxes as well. Knowing in this area there's been a lot of sightings of gliders, your sugar glider, ringtail possum, your greater gliders. And because this country's been heavily hit with the fires, we just want to make sure that they've got a good home to be able to go to.
In the nursery I've got plants, tea tree and all that, where we can actually put it back, just to see how it'll go. This is my dagger orchid. Well, it survived because I had it here. The ones on the granite rocks down at Cookra and on the Wimba Trail, it all got burnt. Well, I started in the nursery in 2009. So I've got tea tree, orchids, casuarinas, achea, club moss, dianella, lamandra, some euchys, two grevilleas in the ties out the front, and I'm just seeing which better way is it for them to grow. And I've got another couple over here, one in a plastic bag and one in a pot, and I'm just trying to see how it grows. Ever since I became a ranger, there's a lot of things I didn't even know existed. Let nature bring back what it can, and then we can step in and put extra in, like just to fill in the gap. It lifts your spirits, because looking at it, like when I first come out here, you could see it was sick. Like parts of it were sick. It needed a burn, but not the way it got burnt. It was too hot. I reckon the old spirits here on Wattle, they had a bit to do with it, because the fire'd go out, like go somewhere else, but it always came back, and that was 3 times. Like, fire don't really act like that. Fire went around Mount Mitchell twice. Like, after the first time, I didn't think there was anything to burn, but fire went around it twice. When Wattle burnt, like, don't get me wrong, I did have a cry, but I knew that it'll come back. But just the way it got burnt, like I said, there's parts are gonna take a bit longer, but the way it's coming back, it's just has that different, I don't know, spectrum to it, Yeah.
12 months has passed and we're starting to see the country green up. We want to share our cultural knowledge, we want to get out, do workshops, we want to work with organisations. We need to do cultural burning to stop the severity of what wildfire can do.
I'm Sam DeForge. I'm the Operations Manager for Wattle Ridge and Tara Kurukan IPAs and working on country projects. Northern Tablelands LLS have come on board and they've provided funding for threatened species survey and recovery. Through the fires we lost significant hollow-bearing trees and other habitat across the IPA. So we're doing what we can through their grant to replicate that habitat. So we've also received support through Foundation for National Parks and Wildlife. They've provided funding for nest box construction and deployment across the IPA. The rangers have just completed installation of 100 nest boxes. Aboriginal Affairs have also provided support through funding for eucalypt species, so we're going to go and regenerate the IPA. They've provided funding for 1,200 tube stock and tree guards, and we're set to roll them out in February this year. I'm looking to replicate that habitat again that was lost. A lot of the eucalypt species were significantly impacted, so we need to replace what was lost. Wyres Water for Wildlife have come on board and they've pledged 4 fauna watering stations across the IPA. Those watering stations are to go in perpetuity onto different zones of the IPA to replicate standing water bodies, so to provide water in times of drought and fire to those arboreal species, but also the bird species across the IPA. More recently, ecologists from the Australian Museum popped out to Wattle Ridge and they assisted the rangers with nocturnal surveys for threatened frog species, primarily the New England tree frog. So a large part of the IPA and working on country programs is traditional knowledge transfer and cultural exchange. So sharing, the rangers are happy to share their cultural knowledge with community and with the broader public. So, you know, we have school kids and groups that come out onto country and learn. We hold workshops. The rangers, you know, do cultural burning demonstrations and walks and talks, bush tucker talks, and, you know, tell story, tell their culture, and to share their knowledge and their experience.